Hello there, welcome to my channel. I'm Angela from artery.com. This is a video I have been wanting to do for a while, and I mean a while. I would say for the past 6 or 7 months I've kind of struggled with it a bit because I'm a fickle and impatient person, and this card, I don't know how many times I have tried to make this card. I have tried all the variations out there. There are some that need precise measurements, and it got to the point where I had to stop because I wasn't enjoying it. And I didn't enjoy making this card, to be honest, because it's not a beginner card, it's not a fast card. It does take a long time, especially if you go into double mat each section. I don't recommend that you do. You can. I don't recommend that you do because of the bulk that it will add to this card. It's quite bulky as it is. So this card, you must have seen them before, is an everlasting card. So you can see there that it opens up like that. Into the next section, you can decorate these exactly how you like. You can have sentiments, you can have spaces for writing, you can have cutouts, you can just have anything that you like. But then it opens up again. That's where I've put the space for writing on. And then you open up to the final section, which you of course just decorate exactly how you like, and then you are back to the front again. And it is a really fun card. It's not an enjoyable card for me to do, and I doubt I'll be doing these anymore after this. But like I say, it is a fun card, because there you go. You open it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and then you're back again. I will show you a couple more variations at the end. Most of them complete disasters. I've only done this right twice. This one and another one that I'll show you, but I have done it wrong so many times. So I'm not going to bore you with all the cutting and what have you of all the little elements that you need, because it's horrendous. So for the card base is the simplest part of this. It's easy enough. You just need 2 pieces of, well, I'm using 6x6, but you can use any size that you want. You could use 5x5, 8x8, just as long as you know how to adjust the measurements for everything else that you're going to do, including the scoring. So these are 2 6x6. They could be the same colour. They can be obviously different colours like these. They can be pattern paper. Just do what you like. Pattern paper might be easier actually, because then you wouldn't have to add all of the other little layers and things on. So I have 2 pieces here, and each piece has to be scored at one side at 1.5. Turn it round to the opposite side and 1.5. Normally it would be 1.5 and 4.5, but just in case it's not quite cut at 6, I would rather turn it round and do it like that at either side. But if you want to, just do it at 1.5 and 4.5. But I'm doing it 1.5, turning around and doing 1.5 again. Like that. Now what we need to do is make sure we're going to score these, but make sure they are exact as possible. We don't want any hanging over the edge at either side. When you look at it like that, it's okay if there's a little bit of a gap there, but what you don't want is to have it either side overhanging so it catches. I mean, it's no big deal, because if you haven't scored enough and it is catching, you can put it in your trimmer and cut off a tiny sliver until it's the same size, if that makes sense. So make sure that you crease it on both sides, because this card is going to be opened up and around all over the place. So again, making sure that the sides are all even. Making the card base is the absolute simplest part of this card. The rest isn't difficult, it's just time consuming. Right, now these, instead of all faffing about, and I found some tutorials that would just measure 1/8 this and 3/8 that, and it was just too much. The easiest way to do it is this way. So this is 6, and we're going to cut these pieces in half at 3 inches. All the measurements are in inches. You may wonder what on earth I'm doing, but believe me, this is by far the easiest way to do the card base. Now I have finished with that, but if you were making this card from scratch, there are a lot of things that you need to cut. So now you have to decide which is going to be on the top and which is going to be on the bottom. I think I want this on the bottom, so what you need to do is, these are all going to be stuck together, so you need to make sure that whichever way you have these are going the opposite way, like that, if that makes sense. So these lines, these score lines are facing down toward me, so the one that you will put next to it have the score lines going that way. You want it either side. Now to fix these cards together, we're going to have to put glue or tape there, there, there and there, because we're going to stick these on like that, top and bottom. So I'm going to use wet glue because I need the wiggle room, but you may want to use scoring tape, or what do you call it, tape runner, because it's faster. This is a slow way to do it because I have to wait for it to dry. But anyway, I'm going to put a little bit of glue up there. You don't need a great deal. And that, keeping these lines going the opposite to there, has to go on like that. And it does need to be as exact as you can. So check both sides, check back and front. It's going to be better if you can use tape. If you can get tape right first time, then please do. There are lots of advantages and disadvantages with all the different kinds of glue. This one will definitely be easier with tape, I think, but I can't get it straight. So don't forget, all of these pencil marks are where we need to glue. So this one has already gone on the top one like that, so now we need to stick it to this bottom piece. That's one disadvantage about using the wet glue, is that it slides about a bit too much. So do use tape or a tape runner if you can, but make sure that it's strong, because this card does get some abuse once it's fully made. So again, this is going to go on there. As I've said, I cannot make these cards without making a mistake. But if you can see there where it's catching a little bit now, that is easy to sort out, but I can do that at the end. Right, I'm just going to leave that now to dry. So these are the bits that I am going to be using. So you need 4 white pieces of 2.5 by 2.5. These are the pieces that are going to be written on inside. You can have more of these if you want more spaces to write on. Just cut as many as you need. And I've got these 2 that are going to be at the front of the card. I've just stamped coloured them. I haven't put any die cuts or anything on. I've got 6 pieces of 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. These are for the various mats that we need inside, and to be honest, I've cut a lot more than 6 because I haven't a clue what I'm going to do with all of these yet. So I've cut lots of pieces. I mean, this is great for using up your scraps, just to get out your scraps and see what you want that matches whatever you're doing. So you need at least 6 pieces of 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 inches. These smaller ones, let me have a look. So you need at least 4 pieces of 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. And don't forget, these are the measurements for this card. You would have to adjust them if you make a larger or smaller card. And then at least 12 pieces of 2 3/4 by 1 1/4 inches. And if you wanted to double mat these, you would just cut them perhaps 1/8 of an inch larger. But I don't double mat on these, not anymore, because it gives it so much bulk, and it takes so long to glue everything together. But you might like that. You might want to take your time, put the telly on, put your feet up, put some music on, get everything cut and scored or whatever. Alright, so now we have our card base. That should be fairly dry. And of course, I haven't cut it right, but never mind, like I said, that can be sorted at the end. So we just have to make sure that it works. So we open it up like that. And when we're going through, just give everything a good crease, so everything works seamlessly. And then open it again. Again, give everything a good crease. And then again, and we are back to the front. So it's up to you now whether you want to have the card this way. You can have it so you open up like that, or you can have it that way, where you can open up like that. I'm going to have it this way, so the sides are down at the left and right rather than at the top and bottom. Yeah, I've cut these two out because I like the contrast with the red. I've cut these out in ivory card, so they are going to go on there like that, because these inside bits are 3 by 3. So I've cut this 1/4 inch smaller, and I'm just going to put those on there like that, just to start off the card. So on the front of the card you can have die cuts with foam on if you want. I mean, you can on any part of the card, but it's all going to add to the bulk. I'm not going to do that with this card, and I will show you why at the end of this video. Now, if you're using pattern paper, you may not even want to bother putting paper down the sides here. You could just leave it as is, but I am going to. Where are they? Got these bits here. So I think on the front, I mean, you could sort of stagger it like that if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you how you want to do this, but I am going to have because this is so dark, I'm going to have 4 of these on the front, and I'm not sure if I need to cut any more of those out. So I'm going to put these on the front. Like I say, you can double mat these if you want. You can put a mat behind these small ones, but I genuinely wouldn't if I were you. Just one note, if you are making these cards with patterned paper, you'll have to make sure that you get the pattern the right way up once it's all cut and scored, and once you're able to go through the card and like open up the various pieces. I mean, there's no doubt about that it is a fun card. I'm always really, when I get it right, I'm really pleased with the finished results, but it just takes so long to cut and adhere everything. But that's just me. I'm not a patient person. I'm very fickle. I go from one thing to the next at the drop of a hat. That's why I like crafting so much, because it's varied and I don't have to stick to doing the same thing day in and day out. I used to work in a factory and it was mind-numbingly boring. I couldn't stand it. Right, so that's the front. Now you can add ribbon, you can add your gems, you can add all kinds. So anyway, keep an eye on how this is facing you, because when you go like that, I made a one where I'd accidentally turned it like that and put everything on, and that did not work. So again, you can figure out what you're going to put in there. I'm just going to put these on there, and if you have die cuts, I mean, I'm going to mess about with a few die cuts, but you can just make it as complex or as simple as you want. The 4 dots which are going to go in these corners. 4 dots, 4 squares with dots on. That's what I meant. I think you can tell making this car really flummoxes me, because it's all I've done for the past 3 days is make variations of this card with varying degrees of success. See, I didn't think it through, because they are not facing the right way. But I don't care, because I've had enough. But just a warning, if you're going to cut these strips, if you're going to cut any of these strips, make sure that the pattern is facing the right way. Now, whatever you want to put on here is entirely up to you. I've got a couple of little die cuts that I'm going to put on there. You can have sentiments on there as well. You could have another piece of card on there with a sentiment on if you wanted to. You could have this, you could leave this part white so people can write on there. It's entirely up to you. Yeah, just add whatever you want, anywhere you like. Just build it up however you want. I'm not going to faff about doing that. And then again, you can turn that over like that. This is where the writing space is going to be. So I'll come back there, and I didn't cut any more bits for there, did I? Yeah, so you actually need 8 pieces of the small ones instead of 4. So I'm just going to cut those out and come back. Right, I've got those cut. Now the beauty about this card is that you can use as many papers as you like. You can have each section, each segment completely different to the other if you want. I'm only doing this because I have loads of scraps left over from the autumn papers that I've been using. So it's 8 little square pieces that you want, not 4. Now, if you wanted to, you could have a couple of strips in there of white, sort of cut, for more sentiments. And again, I should have taken more care about how I've cut the paper, but I'm not going to cry about it. Again, this can be as detailed as you like with your decorations. And you have one last piece to go. Again, I'm going to stick the white onto the red pieces of card just for the contrast. But this is where people can write their own message. I'm just going to finish these off like that. Actually, I think I prefer the pumpkins, so I'm going to cut some more pumpkin papers out and use those instead. So these are 2 3/4 by 1 1/4, and I've remembered to cut them the right way this time. And there you go. You could put a cute little stamp in the corner of those if you want, or you could stamp on a little sentiment at the top or the bottom. But there we go. Now we are back to the beginning again. So that may not have looked difficult, or I may have made it have looked really, really difficult. But I think these cards are so fun. So like I said, you can have whatever you like on the front. You could have a bit of dimension on the front if you wanted. But the most fun thing about it, and it is a fun card, isn't it? And the most fun is going through the card and then ending up back at the beginning again. Just make sure that you have everything on the right way, and I will show you a couple of times, well, almost every time where I haven't done that. And there we are back to the beginning. But be warned, especially if you're double matting these parts, this will take a long time. And although I certainly do not regret doing this tutorial, it's one I've been wanting to do for a long time, but it took me a long time to get it right. And I will show you now. So I showed you that one. Go through that one again. This is my favourite one. I really do like this because of the lovely papers. I think they're from Crafter's Companion, but I don't think they're available anymore. And I just, like I said, you can have sentiments on and things like that. And if you want to stamp your white card and just there's a bit of stenciling on there, put a little bit of colour around the edges just to give it a little bit of interest. That's what I've done with that. Just put a little bit of, what is it? It's some Distress Oxide I managed to put around there, which I think it looks really nice. And here's another one which I really do like as well. This is another autumn one. Again, just stamped on some white card, put some colour around the edge. Again, matted that onto a different colour. And just put something simple inside. Simple decorations, nothing earth-shattering, but again, the white card for writing on is matted onto a different colour there. And then we're back to the beginning. So these are the ones that actually work. These are the ones I'm actually proud of. Right, I don't know if you're ready for this. This is the very first one I ever did, making these most intricate cuts. All of these measurements were just horrendous and I couldn't get the hang of it. But anyway, I kind of did it, but I did go wrong. So, I mean, this is a smaller one because, like I said, there weren't square measurements that I started with, I can't remember. But you go in there and that looks fine, that looks really nice. And then you open it up and you see where I've gone wrong. Instead of having a strip there and a strip there and a strip at each end, like at the bottom, I've made a right mess of that there. So that's where I went wrong with that one. But it was my first attempt. This one I didn't even get to finish, you'll see why in a minute. So it starts off nice, lovely paper. You go in there, that's really nice. And look, what a mess. It's, apart from the fact that it's upside down, I don't even know what I was thinking. I don't even know where I went wrong on that one. It's just, what? And this is the one where I was practicing for this actual video. So this, again, started off really nicely. Yes, very nice. And then, see what I've done? I put the papers on straight there and it's all crushed up there and it just, no. But the papers are so pretty and I thought I was doing so well with that one, it just didn't work. Now the reason I do not double matte is this. I mean, this looks, I think it looks really beautiful on the outside, but it has a lot of dimension because they're all double matted. And I used so much of this paper that I actually ran out and I could not be bothered to emboss anymore because I knew I wasn't going to finish this card anyway. So you open it up and again, all of the very thick dimension on there. This will be a nightmare to post. So open that up and that's where you can write on it. Then you open that up and then I ran out of paper, like I say, to do that and that, but you can see for some reason that just hasn't met in the middle there at all. So I'm obviously not happy with this one. I'm not happy with the design because it doesn't meet. I don't know if it's because of all the dimension that I have on, but apart from the fact it does look pretty, no, it just didn't work at all. So these are the ones I am happy with. I would love to know if you have tried any variations of any of these everlasting cards. I would be very, very interested to know. I would be very interested in any hints and tips because, quite frankly, this was a nightmare from start to finish. And although I'm not at all regretful that I did the video, because the cards are so fun, they really are, but they're just awful to do, in my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion. You might like doing sort of fiddly things that take a lot of time. I don't, but I would love to hear about it anyway. So if you could post in the comments or my Facebook group or my website or anywhere you like, just so you can tell me what you think of these or if you've ever tried it yourself. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of my viewers. You're all absolutely awesome and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye bye now.